All
All
right,
right,
guys.
well,
Well,
maybe we get started.
yeah, let's get started with the call. So I guess why don't we start with any internal updates going on with Bitcoin OS, and from there, let's touch base on the proposal with Sundial because a lot of people had questions on that.
Sure. So right now we are elbows deep in. So we're basically integrating a large number of different systems that we've built. So Bitsnark, the bridge, um, various components around the we've built. So like there's a lot of uh, really novel technology that we've built out, which actually has massive implications. So, for example, we've built out a light client for Bitcoin that allows you to read Bitcoin block headers and have proofs of those block headers with ZK proofs. And what that allows us to do is um, not just create a really, really lightweight way to um, read Bitcoin. So today, if you have if you're running a Bitcoin wallet, you might be using a light client, you might be completely relying on some other third party, but you've got to trust sort of you've got to trust the full nodes. And that's the way most people actually run their Bitcoin wallets. This system, because it's a light client which utilizes ZK proofs, opens the door for people to be able to have very, very lightweight wallets for Bitcoin where you don't need to trust any third party. It also opens the door for Bitcoin itself to become self-aware. So today, Bitcoin blocks don't really know anything about other Bitcoin blocks. So there's no way for if you have a Bitcoin block, um, and you can read the Bitcoin block, it doesn't tell you anything about previous blocks. And so weirdly, Bitcoin can't even read itself. And that becomes really, really important if you want to do anything programmable. So by having this light client, we can actually embed proofs of previous Bitcoin blocks into future Bitcoin blocks. And that's a very, very powerful tool which has never existed before for Bitcoin. And that's just like one little component, right? We've built this light client, we built light client for EVM, we're building light clients for other types of systems. Um, there's Bitsnark, there's um, Rift, which is this liquidity, sort of like a decentralized exchange system that we've been building out to allow funds to flow between Bitcoin, its rollups, other L1s, or really anything that integrates with BOS. So all of this now needs to get integrated so that we have an early version that basically can be tested end to end, that other developers can start to compile on their own machines and play around with, and so that we have a test net. And so, when everyone else is out partying for Christmas and New Year's, this is what we've been doing. And it's the most sort of frustrating, hair-raising thing. It's like dotting the I's, crossing the T's, but it also means that we are now closing in on having that available. So it's very, very sort of detailed work right now, which the work itself frequently isn't fun, but it's extremely exciting because we're sort of crossing over the hump right now. So from a development perspective, that's where we are. Um, and I don't know. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, so has anyone actually built a light client before?
There have been other attempts to build a light client. Um, Certainly, there have been many light clients built for Bitcoin. A ZK Lite client, which allows you to also have proofs of the state of Bitcoin at any time, is much more powerful because it's not a trusted light client anymore. Most chains don't have that. Bitcoin up until now hasn't had that. Um, we know that the Citrea team are also trying to build one. Um, but yeah, so we it's and of course there was like the Zero Sync team who were the first team to ever try and build it about 2 years ago, and they built one, but it didn't. It was sort of it didn't work very well. So technology has progressed a lot, and this basically we're entering a new age from just this really little thing is going to change Bitcoin in many ways, and make it possible for wallets to be more secure, for more programmability for Bitcoin, for people to run Bitcoin on much lighter machines. Um, and this is sort of like just something that we're doing on the side because we need it, but it's going to be valuable for everyone.
I just want
Yeah,
to
no,
add to
that's
that how
fantastic. Go ahead, David.
sorry, I just want to add to that like how important this is, and especially for people who maybe aren't that technical about the definition of what a light client is, because it can be quite a lot of different things. But for Bitcoin OS, the core idea is that you want to be able to, and the reason we're so incentivized to build this is because you want to be able to read what is going on Bitcoin and what is going on between different blocks. And that's important because right now Bitcoin is mainly used as a transfer of value between wallet A and wallet B, or account A and B. But once you start bringing in smart contract logic, it could be something like, hey, in block 5, you did this action, which will have an impact in block 6, which will have an impact in block 7. And if I'm correct here, like without the ability to read itself, you can't create these chains of logic, basically. And then for us as well, when we're looking at the Vault, Grail, or Merkle mesh, and we're trying to write to other chains or read to other chains, or we're locking tokens on Bitcoin and minting them on other chains, we need to know that the Bitcoin that the users are locking on the Bitcoin side do belong to them and is valid, right? And if we want to unlock them, we need to also have light clients on other chains to
Yeah.
really understand and be able to verify the information that's coming on the other chains.
Look, I mean, this is valuable in so many ways. It's valuable as a scaling system. One of the basic things it allows you to do today, if you want to sync a node with Bitcoin, it takes typically many hours. Um, with a ZKP light client, you basically have proofs which allow you to get instant um, and succinct, like very small amounts of data allows you to get instant sync with with Bitcoin. And so it's just there's just a whole bunch of I assume this is going to get integrated into a lot of different tools and technologies. And it's going to open new avenues of development for Bitcoin. Just this one little thing.
So I guess it's also a necessity in many ways, and why it's so difficult to build. But it's a necessity because if you wanted to write a full node into a ZK proof, it would take you so long to verify it. Would that be, or it would just be very difficult to write that
Oh,
into a
I mean,
ZK
you
proof?
can't do that at all, right? Like the whole point
Yeah.
of so one way to think about so mm, one of the interesting things about what we're zero knowledge cryptography for reasons not for the reasons it was initially invented. So most people when they think of zero knowledge proofs, they think of it from a privacy perspective. And that was sort of the reason this type of cryptography was initially created, was to create privacy. New ways of generating sort of moving data around and moving proofs around and proving things happened without having to reveal all kinds of details about how they happened. So basically, it was a privacy tech, and in crypto, the first example of that was Zcash, which allowed you to make transactions without sort of revealing who you are or how much you're transferring or who you're transferring it to. Um, what we so that's another thing which uh, you know BitcoinOS is going to provide, right, an avenue to bring transaction privacy, shielded transactions to Bitcoin. But actually, most of the use that we're using with ZK cryptography is actually as a compression tool. We're compressing data into a tiny little proof. So if you sync an entire Bitcoin full node, we're talking gigabytes of data, many gigabytes of data. but you can then compress that down to 300 bytes of a ZKP, and now you've got effectively a compression which of all of those gigabytes. So you process those gigabytes once, and now you have this proof which can be, passed around the internet at lightning speed and get everyone synced up to the same place. And that's just, and that's before we get into the other use cases. And so it has, when you can do that kind of compression, it has uses for scalability. It has uses for being able to take um, the smart contract, which is written off of Bitcoin, compressed it down and put it into basically prove the interactions it's making to Bitcoin, the ability to prove that something happened in a previous Bitcoin block to a future Bitcoin block. And it just becomes this really, really interesting Lego piece that you can now start building on.
Yeah, feels like this has been the missing piece for why you don't really see like native Bitcoin bridges out there. And most Bitcoin bridges rely on some kind
Yeah,
of
this isn't just a Bitcoin
multi-sig
problem.
wrap.
In fact,
Exactly.
Bitcoin in many ways is a better chain for this than most others because it's a UTXO and proof of work. So so why don't we've had ZK technology and people talking about building ZK bridges for a very long time. Why don't we have trustless transfers of funds between chains today? Well, um, building ZK for other chains is possible, obviously. I mean, we already have rollups to Ethereum as an example. But because but those systems are more complicated to actually, and some would even claim impossible. I don't think it's impossible, but it's very hard to generate truly trustless proofs for, let's say, Ethereum, because the account-based system is more mutable than the immutable UTXO system. It's easy to prove a UTXO. It's more difficult to prove the exact state of an account-based system. But more problematic, perhaps, is that because it's a proof of stake consensus system, proof of stake um, is um, it's much more difficult to prove that a given consensus that has been reached on a proof of stake system is actually the correct consensus. With Bitcoin, you just look for the heaviest block, and if you can prove that one block is heavier than another, you've got perfect proof. But with a proof of stake system, you could have the stakers basically go out and create a fictional chain, which they also sign for, and it looks, unless you're running a full node and have the entire history, it looks exactly like a legitimate chain. So we've also built a light client to Ethereum. It's less secure than the light client, a ZK light client to Ethereum, and this is also going to be powerful. And um, but it's always necessarily going to need some additional security beyond what we would have on Bitcoin, um, because of these limitations of account-based proof of stake systems. I think maybe we're getting a bit too technical, although maybe it's interesting for people to hear.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. No, I think it's important that people do understand why these steps are important and how difficult but essential they are. You know, it sounds so simple to say build a light client, but there's so much behind it. But yeah, we should move on.
Sorry, I think I lost I lost internet there for a second.
That seems to be a pattern
It
with our
was
global stuff.
last time it was not on me. It was the Discord servers in my area. So, all right, but yeah, let's definitely move on. So the proposal with Sundial, do we have any updates for the community about that?
Yes, so the proposal with Sundial passed. It was by far the highest voted proposal in the last round of Catalyst voting. So we're very excited about that. Um, so Sundial are going to be one of probably a key partner in bringing BitcoinOS to Cardano. And what we're working on now is providing them with assistance to help them build the Cardano side of the BitcoinOS um, ZK and bridging components. So what we need on Cardano is we need the ability for there basically to be a smart contract on Cardano that creates a proof, a tiny little proof, a ZK proof. Basically kind of what we were talking about up until now, right? Takes the state of Cardano. In other words, can say at any given moment what Cardano looked like, right? What was the state of the smart contracts? What is the state of the account balances? Who owns what? Prove that, and then what BitcoinOS does is it takes that proof, writes that proof, and verifies that proof on Bitcoin. So then what that does is it gives Bitcoin eyes onto Cardano. It allows for the first time for Bitcoin to start seeing what's happening on Cardano and interpreting what's occurring on Cardano. And the reason that that's important is because when you want to do a Bitcoin transaction from Bitcoin to Cardano, then you put the Bitcoin into a smart contract on Bitcoin, which we call these smart contracts on Bitcoin, we call them ZK vaults, right? So it's basically this vault which is controlled by ZK proofs, and those ZK proofs come from Cardano, right? And so that gives Cardano the ability to directly control Bitcoin. And so there's a few ways that you can use this. You can have a smart contract on Cardano that is telling Bitcoin what to do, like BTC, what to do on the Bitcoin chain, but you can also sort of say to the smart contract on Cardano can say, all right, lock that Bitcoin up, and I'm going to create, a BTC token on Cardano, and now you can start moving that BTC token on Cardano. And so that's what bridging looks like in the BitcoinOS world. And so the challenge now is for us to take the work that we've already done we've already, with several other chains, have built out this kind of smart contract which can create a proof of the chain, and we need to now work with the Sundial team to build the same thing for Cardano.
And there was some, I would say, misinformation spreading on Twitter about our integration or their integration with us and how they were planning on using BitVM instead. But from my understanding, that's that's not true, right, Yago? Like we're obviously, like what you said, the integration is still happening.
Yeah, nothing's changed. I mean, there was the vote only passed about 2 weeks, finally passed just over a week ago. So it's a new thing. Um, but yeah, we're very excited now. Now the work with Sundial can move forward.
Yep.
Awesome.
I think we're getting a lot of questions generally. I just replied to someone else on Twitter today from not just Cardano but other communities around like sort of which integration are you doing first or second. And I think it's helpful to think of it also as if you want to build on the BOS technology, if you want to do that, ultimately the technology that has been built is going to be permissionless and open sourced. But as you can see from a lot of mature infrastructure projects, including Wormhole, it's still semi-permissionless. There's still a hybrid model going on. So building on BOS is either going to be kind of working together with us, right? Or you kind of will have to wait a long time, not a long time, but like you have to wait until things can become permissionless, probably sometime next year. But if people are interested to build on BOS from the Cardano community, I'm more than happy to connect with people, and you guys know the Ouroboros best and the consensus mechanisms and how things work. So yeah, I think we just want to let everyone know as well. It's a bit of a two-way street as well, building together with those teams that are interested in using BOS in any way.
For sure. And I did want to chime in here that this is actually completely irrelevant than what you were saying, but we do have a lot of new community members here, and we've been discussing ZK proofs quite a bit. So just in case you're unfamiliar with what ZK proofs are, it's basically a cryptographic method that allows someone, typically the prover, to prove to another person who is the verifier that they know something or a statement is basically true without revealing any information about it. So ZK proofs tend to enhance privacy because there's no sensitive details that are being revealed. And with that, they're basically improving the efficiency by proving that these complex computations by proving complex computations in a very like simplified and compact way. So it's a very it's a great method to build trust without requiring a lot of essentially additional information. So I just wanted to throw that out there because we have a lot of new community members that joined, and we're going to be discussing ZK proofs quite a bit. So but moving forward, somebody asked, running a BOS Slam node makes it fully trustless. Can you share the required specs for running such a node?
No, we don't know exactly what the specs are going to look like, because we still need to um, make the node. So basically, Dockerize the node. Dockerizing means basically putting it into an envelope and making it easy to run. It should be able to run on a. So the we put out a post about 2 weeks ago about the different functions of Slam nodes. The system does a lot of different things. It does ZK verification. That is really relatively lightweight work. Um, and so you'd be able to run that, which is just like the basic node on, you know, a decent laptop. Um, you'll also need to stake BOS token. The amount of BOS token required to stake hasn't yet been finalized. And then there's other aspects, right? You may want to be able to provide liquidity, so you may want to also have some liquidity available that you can provide. You may want to be able to do proving, which is basically taking compute and compressing it down into a ZK proof. That is going to require much more powerful machines. Um, right now, that's probably means that you know, we would expect probably you to use a machine with at least 100 cores. Um, and so we're experimenting now. One of the things, like I said, we're in this integration phase. One of the things that we're doing is we're testing this and running it on different machines so that we can figure out what specs are required with different configurations in order to achieve, um, a basic level of performance.
Okay,
We
and
will
also can
probably
you
have delegated staking, right? For people that.
No, currently there's no delegated staking in the system. That might be added at a later point.
Yeah.
Yago, could you give us a quick like I don't know, like 5-second TLDR on what a node is?
Sure. So um, let's. So okay. So any network, any network system, is a system which basically exists when computers communicate with each other, right? Any computer which is on a system and is communicating with the other computers in the network is a node. That's what a node is. It's a computer that is connected to a network and communicating with the other computers. Now, let's take Bitcoin for example, right? Anyone who's interacting with Bitcoin with, like, let's say a light client or a wallet is a node. But there's this concept of a full node. What is a full node? A full node is a computer which is downloading the entire history of Bitcoin and is also receiving messages about every single new transaction and then passing those messages along to all of the other nodes. right? So it's constantly communicating back and forth about every single transaction that occurs on Bitcoin. So that's a full node. Um, but bottom line, these systems, they don't exist anywhere, right? They exist everywhere. In other words, anywhere where there's somebody running a computer which is communicating with these networks is a part of the network. So decentralized systems are a little bit like an ant colony, right? An ant colony, you can think of it as basically like a single animal, right? So like a deer is a single animal or a human is a single animal. But when you look at it, it looks like lots of little animals, right? Each ant looks like it's its own animal, but in practice, it's part of this bigger sort of um, organism, which is the colony. Decentralized systems are more similar to like an ant colony, right? There's lots of computers all around the world. If you look at it, you actually can't see, the actual network anywhere because the network is everywhere.
That's a great analogy, actually. That definitely simplifies things quite a bit. All right, moving on. So, all right, somebody said, so there are now Grail and Slam nodes for BOS, from my understanding. The first is not incentivized to operate. The second is, but requires a BOS collateral. How high is that collateral? How accessible is this for decentralization?
So there's no such thing as a Grail node. Grail is just one of the functions of what the network does, right? So Grail is the bridging capacity, the ability to communicate with Bitcoin from other chains. And we call it Grail because it's like the Holy Grail, right? The Holy Grail is being able to bridge Bitcoin and Bitcoin security to other chains. Um, that's just a core function of what BitcoinOS does. So I would say when it comes to nodes, there's basically two kinds of nodes. There's just a regular node that anyone can run, right? That would just be a boss node. And then there's slam nodes, which actually are incentivized to maintain a certain minimal level of service, right? They basically provide security for everyone else. They provide computation and proving services for everyone else. They verify all of the ZK proofs, not just like if you're just running a node, you can just verify the ZK transactions that are important to you. If you're running a full Slam node, then you verify everything that everyone does. And the more nodes that we have doing it, the higher the security of the system in a way which is actually quite direct, right? Because um, if someone tries to cheat the system and a single other person detects that they tried to cheat, then the person who detected someone cheating can stop the cheating from happening. And so if you have, more and more and more nodes that are doing that, um, you basically have a very, very high level of guarantee that cheating is impossible.
Okay, that makes sense. And so how is it prevented that a node is not slashed due to software bugs? So what happens when the node needs maintenance and is offline for a while and therefore misses to verify a proof? Will this node then get its collateral slashed?
Everything to do with how much collateral and what the rules of the slashing of collateral, if it exists at all, those have not been codified yet. So we have a overall design that we want to achieve, but we haven't finalized what that design looks like.
Okay. All right, so I'll move on from those questions then. Let's see here. So is the vault itself decentralized?
So a vault, right? The ZK vault is basically what a smart contract is on Bitcoin. And the way we've built the smart contract capability for Bitcoin is by not writing the smart contracts themselves into Bitcoin for lots of reasons. But basically, it comes down to Bitcoin's limitations. We need to find ways around Bitcoin's limitations. And so, in order to have a very small footprint, to use very little data, to keep things cheap, and to not be limited by the native programmability of Bitcoin, what we have done instead is we've moved the compute off chain. Now, I think ultimately this is going to happen to every single smart contract on every single chain because it's a very, very powerful way of scaling, and it's also a powerful way of providing other benefits like potentially privacy, um, uh, uh, you know, cross-chain activity, and so much more. But bottom line is, what the vault does is it's an extremely simple smart contract, which allows you to put assets into that smart contract, BTC or Bitcoin native, other kind of Bitcoin native tokens. And then those assets are governed by the smart contract. And so the smart contract can have very, very complicated logic, which exists somewhere else. And the smart and so the compute the compute layer, wherever the computation is being done, communicates with Bitcoin via these ZK proofs. Now, to create one of these vaults, the vault needs to have a number of nodes participate in basically a creation ceremony. They need to create that smart contract, and they do it by writing commitments to Bitcoin. We call these pre-commits. Um, how many do you need in order to create a vault? You need a minimum of one, but then um, that would be entirely trusted. So you'd basically have to that one person who created the vault would basically completely control it. And so what you actually want to do is you want to have a large number of nodes perform the ceremony. And the larger the number of nodes that are performing the ceremony, the more decentralized they can be. And that's one of the reasons that we want to encourage a large number of nodes to be Slam nodes and to be BOS nodes, because then they can all participate. That gives you a very, very big pool of potential participants who can create these vaults.
So basically you were saying how some of the proving is happening off chain and then the transaction is being
All of the proving is happening off chain. So what is
okay.
proving? Proving is when you take a computation and you compress it into a ZK proof. That's what proving is. Verification happens, right? The proof is written to Bitcoin on chain and then verified, but you don't write the whole computation. The whole computation can be somewhere else. It could be on another chain. It can be on a rollup. It can even be on just some one person's computer. In fact, one of the cool things about this is even if it's just running on one person's computer, you can achieve um, basically the same level of verification. The same, it's still sort of like a non-manipulable smart contract. No one can manipulate that smart contract. What they can do is they can shut down that computer and then censor transactions, which is why you want to have sort of these systems. For many purposes, you'll want to have them running on a decentralized, like on another chain or on a rollup. But um, but it you actually don't need it, you can achieve a huge, like a very, very high degree of security, even if it's just running on some person's machine somewhere. In fact, you don't even need it to run on a machine necessarily. You could just publish the smart contract's code, and then anyone who reads the smart contract code can basically run it on their own computer. So you can have people running their own the smart contract themselves on their own computer, creating a proof and posting it to Bitcoin. It's an entirely new way to think of smart contracts, um, and so it can be a little bit confusing, um, because most people just think of a smart contract as something which lives on a single chain. But now there's the ability to basically build smart contracts that can live on multiple chains at once. They can live on many different people's computers. They can live on one computer and all have similar levels of security. They don't all have similar levels of censorship resistance, but they all have similar levels of security. In other words, interruptibility.
Okay, and you were saying how I'm not sure if it was in our previous community call, it might have been, but you were saying how this proving that's happening off chain is actually something that's being adopted by different chains right now, right? Like this is a new method of this is just something new that's kind of being adopted. Am I correct?
Overall, we're seeing a pattern where more and more computation is being taken off chain, right? So everywhere you look, you see this, right? You see chains like Ethereum's got rollups and Cardano's got side chains and Avalanche has got sort of side chains, and now we're building layer two sort of rollup systems for Bitcoin. Everywhere you look, crypto is moving away from doing compute directly on chain. And the reason for this is that it just doesn't scale. Um, if you try to put everything on chain, you make the chain extremely heavy, expensive, or slow. And you also constantly need to try and upgrade the chain, which makes the chain less reliable. Um, and so, what you want to do is you want to basically keep the chain super, super minimal, and then have all of the complexity live outside of the chain. And I think BitcoinOS is the most pure example of this happening because we have the simplest chain, which is Bitcoin, and we can have any amount of complexity interacting with Bitcoin.
And that was something that Vitalik mentioned, right? The account, what was it, called the accounting complex or something that you had mentioned previously?
Well, Vitalik has been talking about this for many, many years, and he calls it escape velocity, functional escape velocity. So basically, Vitalik has claimed that the best solution is actually not Ethereum. The best solution would be to have an extremely minimal, super reliable, and unchanging chain, and then um, just have the ability to communicate with it, to communicate complexity with that chain. So, in other words, to give that chain eyes and a brain with which it could understand and see more complex computations that are happening outside of the chain. And in fact, when he published this paper, which I think was in 2019, he described it as like this. He said the best solution would be Bitcoin with just a little bit more. And that just a little bit more is the ability for Bitcoin to have eyes and a brain to see computation that is happening off chain. And he basically described that as the Holy Grail. And that's what we've built, right? What we've built is the ability to take Bitcoin and give it just a little bit more so that it achieves escape velocity. So that basically you're no longer trapped on the chain and you're no longer trapped by the limitations of the chain. You can now, as a developer, go and do anything. As a user, go and do anything with your Bitcoin, with other tokens. Um, so
I,
that's
I,
what
I just want
BitcoinOS is doing.
I just want to say that's really interesting, right? I mean, even in the last cycle in 2020, 2021, there were these protocols that came out with these TEE designations, these trusted execution environments, and that really didn't go anywhere. And but that's essentially what all the AWSs and cloud servers are using in the world. And this cycle, we're seeing a lot more of that already. That people are okay to take on the trust assumptions of these execution environments where things happen in private. And then I think, just to add to that, I think the problem for builders to solve is how you make it cheap and efficient enough to check what is on chain instead of making it cheap and efficient to run everything on chain, which we have seen so far people try to do. I think that's changing now.
Yeah,
All right,
so I think
so
so just to make clear the distinction that David is making, there's basically two ways you can do smart contracts. There's two ways you can do cross-chain activity. There's two ways you can do programmability for a chain. One is you run all of the software on the chain itself. In other words, every single node needs to run every single computation. That's exactly what Ethereum and Solana and really the entire world of crypto has done. Everyone from, you know, everyone who came after Ethereum, what they've done is that every single full node of their chain has to run every single computation in parallel. So if you've got 10,000 Ethereum nodes, those and you want to run a very, very simple piece of software on Ethereum, let's say Uniswap, or let's say a simple game of tic-tac-toe, everyone now has to do that, right? So when they said that sort of Ethereum is the world computer, that wasn't true. It was the whole world having to do the same computations over and over and over it again, right? And that's why it doesn't scale, because it's extremely redundant. The other solution is that you just do the compute in one place, and then you can prove that it happened in a way that you can't cheat. And you just take that proof and put that proof onto the chain. That's called verifiable computation, right? Computation that happens in a way where it can be verified. And that's what we're building. We're building the ability to verify any computation on Bitcoin and then have it execute on Bitcoin on the basis of the computation.
Thank you for expanding on that, Yago. So let's move on to some other questions that we had because we're kind of coming into a close here. So somebody had mentioned in Rosenbridge, Bitcoin is stored in a vault and a RSBTC token is minted on Cardano. Will this be similar with BitcoinOS?
The difference is that with Rosenbridge and every single other system that exists today, there's a bunch of people who are basically holding the Bitcoin for you. Whoever controls the vault with Rosenbridge, they hold the Bitcoin. And so you trust them. And the truth is that most people don't trust them. And so the level of adoption that is possible is just capped very, very low. The big difference, the holy grail that we're introducing with Grail, bridging, is that you can do this without there being anyone that you trust. There is no third party that you need to trust. There's no single third party. In fact, there's not even a group of third parties that you need to trust. You only trust the cryptography. You trust the maths.
And that's with the ZK proofs, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Fantastic. Do we have any updates regarding tokenomics of the BOS token?
We'll be publishing some more information about that pretty shortly, I think.
Okay, that sounds good. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with this project, but I'm sure you are, to be honest. What is the difference between BOS and BOB?
BOB is a rollup on Ethereum, which tries to do a lot of stuff with different kinds of wrapped Bitcoin. And BOS is an, a network extension for Bitcoin. It's basically that little thing that Vitalik was talking about. Bitcoin plus just a little bit more. BOS is that little bit more, which makes it possible to do anything on Bitcoin.
Mm, okay. And would BOS be something that they would actually integrate?
Um, they definitely want to integrate something like BOS, yes.
Okay, that's good to know. Outside of that, that kind of summarizes all the questions that we have. The other questions were pertaining to collateral, but obviously from what you said, we still haven't kind of figured out the specifics for that. So, does anybody have any questions? If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you have any questions regarding, anything that you want clarified, any type of concept that was discussed that you didn't understand, there's no wrong questions here, guys. All right, so I guess if there's no questions, we will be wrapping up here, and this community call is recorded. It will be posted on YouTube as well. Hopefully within the next couple of hours here. But we also do transcribe these calls and then summarize them for you, and you can find the summary of them in the AMA Spaces channel on Discord. I'll make sure to tag everyone so that you guys get notified for that as well. I know that there's a lot of new community members here. Shout out to Sir Sayso, Blue, MK, FlamJ. I haven't seen you guys in here before, so welcome. We're so happy to have you. Thank you for, tuning in. As always, guys, if you have any questions, like feel free to reach out to me on Discord or on Telegram. My DMs are always open for you guys. And if you guys did have any questions that, you know, you didn't have time to ask today or you just weren't comfortable with asking, feel free to ask those, and I'll make sure the team gets those answered for you guys.
It looks
Let's
like
see here.
there is a question here. I don't know.
Ah,
Flam J, do you have a question?
yes, Flam J, what is your question, my friend?
Better be good. Just kidding. Oh, he's typing.
Yes, you can type. The meme contest. Yes, the meme contest actually finished yesterday. So, with that, actually, perfect timing. Thank you for bringing that up. If you guys could actually go to the meme channel on Discord and, just hit those memes with like some of your like just some emojis to just to show your support, on what, you know, kind of like which one is your favorite, right? So if you guys could do that today, it would be much appreciated. We obviously wanted the competition to be something that was community kind of voted for. So and then once we get those results in by next week, I'll make sure to announce the winners hopefully by next Monday or this upcoming Monday. And then from there, I'll reach out to you guys and, we'll just make sure to get your addresses to send those holiday boxes your way.
Cool.
So
All
my
right.
question is, do you plan for educating non-techie participants to understand what Bitcoin OS is about, so to encourage more participation?
Yes. So I think you've probably seen we put out we put out one or two blog posts a week, sometimes more technical, sometimes less. We're hosting calls like this,
Mm-hmm.
and we've just started a new project to try and train an AI with enough understanding um, of Bitcoin OS that it will be able to answer many, many questions. So that's an experiment. We don't know how that's going to work, but um, these AI systems are getting pretty smart, and so hopefully that will also make things much easier. But yes, we are uh, looking to we're putting out content of various kinds, hosting calls and spaces. Stay tuned for like on Twitter and Discord and Telegram, as we publish those things, and we're doing everything that we can to make this as easy as possible to understand.
Absolutely. And, just to chime in on my end, so those community calls that get summarized, and we had the first one, I think it was like 2 weeks ago that I summarized for you guys. All of those, I'm going to try to make sure they're as simplified as possible for you guys to understand. Obviously, the tech that we're building can be very, very difficult to, digest. So, anything I can do for you guys to simplify things on my end, trust me, I'm already working on that. I'm also working on a FAQ kind of like resources guide for you guys, and everything is going to be laid out in layman's terms. I'm not going to go too in depth on, the technology, but kind of just give you guys like a general consensus of what Bitcoin OS is, what the Grail is, like what ZK proofs are, for example, how that relates to Bitcoin OS. So we're also working on that. And then I would say within the next about 2 months from now, I'm also planning on hosting some courses as well. And those are going to be free for anybody to join. And hopefully those courses will be essentially just educational courses, right? It'll be anything from, what Bitcoin OS is doing and our technology, our products, all the way to what are layer ones, what are layer twos, what are layer threes. Obviously, equipping you guys with the knowledge you need to succeed in this space is honestly our like utmost priority. So anything we can do for you guys, and if you do have any suggestions, by the way, if you're like, hey, I think we could use XYZ, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to discuss with you and implement anything to help you guys. So that's why I'm here. That's why I was brought in, was because I'm basically trying to be that bridge between, the community and the team. So I'm your resource. I'm here for you guys. Anything you need, please feel free to reach out to me. Let's see here. Somebody actually wanted to speak. Okay, I guess we can invite you to speak. But we do have to wrap up here within the next like 2 to 3 minutes. Oliver, do you mind bringing Sir Sayso up to stage? Sir Sayso, you're approved to speak, my friend. You have to press the little hand button with the three lines so that you can come on stage because you've been approved to speak. All right, well, let's see here. Yeah, my friend, you have to you've been approved to speak, so you have to bring yourself up now by pressing the hand with the three buttons. Or not buttons, sorry, lines. Well, is he up here? Okay. Sir Sayso, hello, hello, my friend. You have a question for us?
GM, GM, everyone. I'm so sorry, I've never actually spoken like on a Discord server before. I think this is my first time. So trying to accept the mic was kind of a little bit complex to me. So yeah. I don't know
No
if you
problem.
guys can hear.
Yeah, we can hear you. No worries at all. And welcome to our Discord stage.
Yeah. Thank you for accepting me, to speak here. I actually love what you guys are doing. I think they sent out the link on the comment section, so I was, going through the whole process, the node, and the staking, and everything about Bitcoin OS. I think you guys are doing like a great job here, and I think this is something that is basically needed, you know. So I also saw some while I was going through it, reading through it, I saw some functions, where you have to protect people from getting hacked and fraud and all that. And I think I love the whole um, idea behind what you guys are building. I'm kind of new to the project, and I'll still be learning to understand the whole process, because for some people, honestly, it will look kind of complex, like kind of a little bit complex for someone who doesn't really have much understanding about Web3, and how all these things work to get to grasp around it. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm going to still, read through everything to get better understanding of what um Bitcoin OS is all about. But yeah, I'm so happy to be here. And aliens, I'm so happy to for it to actually, involve me into what you guys are building. I'm happy. I'm amazed, honestly. And I'm hoping to see more of what you guys are building. And already following you guys on Twitter, you know, and making trying to make people get to understand what is going on here. I know a lot of people don't really have the idea of what's going on here on Web3. So yeah, I'll make sure I use my platform to incentivize people into getting what to know about Bitcoin OS, and yeah, and I'll keep on collaborating with you, and trying to reach out a lot of communities in Web3. Yeah, so I'm so happy. Thank you for giving me the mic.
Thank you. You than anything. Like, thank you so much for being excited and for seeing our vision, for seeing our ethos, like seeing our goals. That obviously means the world to us. Advocates like you guys, like everybody that's in here in this community call right now, you are so appreciated. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and thank you also for just jumping in and chiming in some questions and stuff. Like, this is obviously very important for us. Like, we want to show up for you in any way possible. So any way that we can do that, once again, like I said, if you guys need anything at all whatsoever, please feel free to reach out to me. My DMs are always open for you guys. And Sir Say so, thank you so much. Your advocacy, like I said, it means everything to us. So thank you so much for coming on stage today. And with that, my friends, I think we will be wrapping up. So thank you all for tuning in today. And like I had mentioned, the community call is recorded. It will be uploaded on YouTube, and I will also have it transcribed and summarized for you guys. And all those announcements will be made in the Discord channel. So thank you all for tuning in. Happy New Year to you all, and hopefully you guys have a wonderful, beautiful, abundant, happy uh, start to your new year. Thank you guys.